T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here's your career affirmation. You're going to rock that interview and get that job. Happy Thursday. It is lucky number 13. I'm Anna Morgan, your career BFF. And this is Career BFF Live with yours truly. We are here every Friday at noon Eastern. And we are going to talk a little bit more about one of my favorite topics, how to work effectively with recruiters. This is a part of my BFF method. The B is behind the recruiter curtain, and it aligns perfectly with several posts I've seen in the last week or two that start with Dear Recruiter. So if you've seen that, let me know in the comments. I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon to all the amazing people here. We have Jason in the house. Thanks for being here. I can't wait to get back to Dallas sometime. Jason, Pamela, great to see you. Hope you're doing well. My BFF, Dan, is in the house, as well as Yvonne. You both are up early. I greatly appreciate it. Julie is here. Julie and I have had a chance to connect through some recent events, which was great to see you. We need to catch up. My new best friend, Ronette, is in the house. Definitely connect with her, connect with each other, network in the comments. Yes, Jason, great call out. LinkedIn is certainly being tricky. I cannot see on my side how many people are here. So I believe LinkedIn is having some upgrades, because I don't know if you've noticed, trying to draft a text post on your mobile is torture, trying to edit it. So Dan said, is like the AT&T internet. You never know when it's going to work. Exactly. All right. So awesome. David Alto is in the house, a fellow coach and career wizard. Awesome to have you all here. All right. So I'm going to get into this. I'm going to share a little bit of this presentation that I've done for some nonprofits in different places. And I want to talk, I should probably do it for the collective. So we'll probably be announcing something like this or in the future. So, but one, I want to preface, talking about this kind of trend of people calling out recruiters and recruiters calling out candidates. And it's, to me, like, if I step back kind of with blurred lines, it is more of like a mental health issue. And any of you that were here last week or have stuck around for a minute know that mental health, serenity, self-care is a big area that I like to focus on. And it's a journey that I'm consistently trudging along myself. And I want to make sure that, we kind of talk about this, because the more we talk about these things, mental health concerns, addiction, various things, it opens up the door for more conversations to help people not feel alone. And that was such a life-changing situation for me on my journey. And that's what I'm feeling called to talk about, because I know through my own journey, the events in life, like life on life's terms, it was the shoelace moments that would cause me to like be completely knocked off kilter. So that's when I say the Dear Recruiter post is probably not about the actual experience with a recruiter. Of course, I am not, discounting bad behavior from recruiters, because there are so many different types. We have a lot of recruiters that have just gotten into the industry. The talent acquisition community has been through the ringer in the last 2.5 years. Not that we are, better than or different from anyone else who has experienced a job loss or a layoff. It just has been a common trend with organizations when there's a little bit of a financial pinch and they are like, okay, we need to slow down on hiring. So that means we don't need this bench of recruiters by recruiters. And that's a sad fact. And any one of you that are here know that you probably know people in the TA community that have been displaced. But going back to the Dear Recruiter post, I want to share some tips today in service of helping and empowering job seekers to ask the right questions, manage up, stand in their power, be willing to ask the tough questions, get what you need in these interactions to know that you're on the right path, because there's nothing worse than chasing an opportunity, come to find out that you're going to get ghosted, or that it's a super long interview process, or indeed they actually don't offer the kind of benefits that you needed, or the compensation, or the hybrid flexibility. In theory, recruiting is simple. In execution, it is complex. And so that affects job seekers, candidates, talent as well. But the devil's in the details, and being able to advocate for yourself and take some of these little steps, it ensures that less is going to fall through the cracks. And when we do that, then we're feeling more empowered, right? So when something doesn't go our way, that shoelace moment, that small little thing where a recruiter doesn't get back to someone, or someone gets that auto rejection email, that doesn't ignite, retaliation and angst and anger and resentment, right? Because we have to take care of ourselves through this process as job seekers. And if we are feeling confident and empowered in the tips and ways that we're interacting with recruiters, when we get the not so great news, we are able to, balance and adjust and be like, okay, here's what I learned from the situation. Here's what I could do better next time. Or, you know what? This person was not meant to be, right? Because sometimes we are redirected, and that is for a purpose. So I'm going to get to sharing. If you have any particular questions about interactions with recruiters or things that you have struggled with, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments. I can't necessarily guarantee that I will see it right away, but I always try to go back and check the content so I know, what's there. So this is, like I said, a presentation that I typically do for some of my clients and for different nonprofits and workforce development teams, different things like that, because I'm on a mission to help job seekers and recruiters work better together. All right. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is really, what are some of the things that recruiters are looking for? Hi, I'm here for the interview with all of my baggage. Pity party. All the times I've been ghosted. Not trusting recruiters. Negotiating. Don't take old baggage into new experiences with recruiters. All right. So how do we feel about that? Very simple. Let go of the baggage. Treat each situation as a new opportunity, but make sure that you do your research as well. How long has this person been employed? What type of recruiter are they? Don't be afraid to ask the open-ended questions that dig into, how long have they had this account, or how long have they worked with this different hiring managers? So the common thread, in my belief, what recruiters are looking for is that concise presentation of your career story. I did a poll a couple months ago that asked, what is the most common question that recruiters are asking job seekers in that first, 5 minutes of a conversation? And sadly, it was, tell me about yourself. So we still have to be armed and prepared to, do our 1 minute to 2 minute pitch around our career story. Recruiters really love an optimized profile. It tells a story, and many recruiters are gravitating towards a LinkedIn profile, over a resume, but the resume is never going to go away. And what we really look for is that partner and collaboration, and then, being able to set boundaries equally and have that strategic follow-up. So here are the most common types of recruiters. And I have, through my coaching, noticed that job seekers tend to just clump recruiters in one big bucket. And there's actually quite a different variety, if you will. So you have corporate in-house recruiters, and there's a couple layers of sourcers, coordinators, schedulers that fall under that corporate umbrella. Then you have staffing agency that, typically offer temp to hire, direct hire, or consulting opportunities. You also have contingency and direct hire. You have retained and executive. You also have outplacement. One of the things I don't have listed as one of the companies I work for is a RPO. So they bring recruiters in to establish teams, or they do high volume, set up systems for entire startups or fast growing organizations. So there's a lot of different nuances behind, all the different types of recruiters. So I'm going to pause there for a second and look at, start for us back. Okay. So David said, most hiring managers have zero input in the creation of job descriptions, and this is why they suck. Great point. I have noticed through my time working with organizations in agency and then in corporate, writing the dreaded job description is the job that no one wants to do. And in fact, it's probably one of the most important jobs that should be done, right? Okay. So we talked about a LinkedIn profile is important, strategic follow-up. I want to cover, because this is really about making sure that we are minimizing ghosting, right? And that comes down to communication. I mean, again, sometimes we cannot control the situation, right? You're going to have recruiters that are working more positions than they can handle, and they just, from a bandwidth standpoint, cannot get back to everyone. But there are ways you can strategically follow up that increase your chances of getting a response and either a closeout loop or potentially a next step. And that goes back to some of the ways that you're going to be establishing that first call. If you have the ability to build some rapport, dig into why the position is open. What is the hiring manager's perception of quality? What is the golden thread of the rock stars on that current team? Make sure you understand why the position is open. And, has that recruiter spent time with the key decision makers, or is there kind of like a telephone game in the process, right? Maybe they're the sourcer and then there's a main recruiter and maybe an account manager. Those are key things that you want to understand when you start to engage in an opportunity, when you're working with a recruiter, whether it be any of the types that we talked about between corporate, staffing agency, contingency, retained, outplacement, right? You want to know that the main person that you're doing this discovery with, that you're telling your story to, that you're selling your features and benefits into what you see on the job description, truly has the right knowledge to be the person that can create a result for you. So how do you do that? By asking smart questions. And that looks like, what are some of the things that you saw in my profile or my resume that prompted you to reach out today? I want to make sure that I mention these things when I speak to the hiring manager. What is the interview process? This is an area I see a lot of job seekers getting hung up on, where they're like, yeah, I had this great first phone screen. And they were like, yeah, I'm totally going to put you through to the hiring manager. And then it's like ghosting, right? So this is where strategic follow-up really matters. You want to give it some time, right? That makes logical sense. A couple days if a recruiter said that. And we all know it's all about grace, and we never know what's happening behind the scenes, right? So it's really just being in that mindset of staying in an energy of optimism and hopefulness and positivity, which is so hard when you're in the job search. I 100% acknowledge that and know that. But if we are constantly in this energy of like, this recruiter's never going to get back to me, I'm never going to get in the hiring manager, what we focus on expands. So paying attention to that inner tape is so incredibly powerful. Okay. And that potentially ties into you as a job seeker. What are you doing to take care of yourself? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you, eating the right things? Are you moving? How are you managing your stress? So when you're faced with these things, you're not in a complete, Tasmanian devil, adult temper tantrum, freak out, hot mess express, right? We all have those days, and those are totally normal. But the focus here is to find some equanimity and then manage these opportunities with ease and flow, right? So strategic follow-up would look like, making sure that you reference to the person that you spoke to the day that you spoke, right? Like, hey, Dan, we interviewed together on Thursday the 1st in regards to the senior recruiter position. You mentioned the next step in the process was interviewing with Jason Hopper. Here's my availability. If you can provide some of your open windows for the next couple of weeks, that is going to make it easier for that recruiter to pass it along to the scheduler, or when they have to open these big old calendars. Because I can tell you, as a recruiter, the thing that is the most challenging for me, and as a neurodiverse ADHD person, is syncing calendars. And don't even get me started on time zones. So if you can communicate when you first met what the position was about and your proactive availability, you are increasing the chances of closing that next step in the interview. I also invite you, when you're following up, to reframe what you learned in that initial call. Dan, I understand the next step in the process is with Jason. If that goes well, you would send me, some kind of assessment, and final interview would be a panel with 3 people that collaborate with, said recruiting team, as we go through this process. Has anything changed? A very powerful statement, whether you're a recruiter or a job seeker, is, has anything changed since we spoke last? Write that down. Okay. So, with that, this is providing your scheduling proactively is super smart. You also want to I mean, obviously keep your commitments, right? When life happens, get in a car wreck, flat tire, family situation, make sure you have the contact information of your recruiter. So if, something happens, you can reach out easily and let them know that, something's going on and you need to make an adjustment. Okay. Then a little consideration goes a long way. Obviously, have a baseline of the position, a little bit of knowledge on the company. It's a two-way street. I feel like part of my job as a recruiter is to give you, the big picture of the organization, to tell you a little bit more of our story, where we've been, what we're doing, why the position is open. But not all recruiters think that way. And some expect job seekers to have done all this research on the company. And while I don't necessarily believe that you have to do, PhD type of research on every single opportunity that you're walking into, I do think it's in your best interest to do some research to make sure that you're qualifying this opportunity so you're not wasting your time. Your time is just as valuable as these recruiters and decision makers that you're talking to. And this ties back into, owning your power and your worth. Okay. And then I always recommend to have some of these questions prepared. I like to have a nice balance, like a three-pronged stool, questions for the recruiter, a couple of questions about the role, and questions about the organizations, if the recruiter hasn't actually covered that in the initial conversation. All right, let's see what else makes sense. Do we have any questions? Yes, you're 100% right, Jason. It is a mindset game. I'm a big fan of Calendly. If a job seeker gave me a link to their calendar, I would more than gladly use that. But I actually use it as a scheduling tool for the work that I do in, sourcing and collaboration, right? When you're on a phone screen, so this is another thing, make sure that your energy, that you have a good breakfast, that you're not too jittery, but you show up with a little bit of oomph, right? A lot of recruiters, depending on their level, the complexity of the roles that they work, their primary purpose is to talk to people. And, as someone that works remote, I really enjoy, doing my screens, and I balance, getting the information, answering the questions, and some of that rapport building. And I always appreciate it, when someone shows up with a little bit of energy. You want to be cognizant of the balance in the communication. Being consistently interrupted as I'm trying to pull information from a candidate is, knocks me off kilter and kind of frustrates the flow of the call. So just be cognizant of that. And really, it's just about being fully present in that conversation. If you don't have the company summary, either in the description of your bullet points or underneath the main title in your resume, when you're starting to answer a question, I always recommend that you start with, when I worked for Amazon as a recruiter, I did these things. It just grounds the conversation and helps the recruiter's eye go exactly to where they need to on the resume to make sure they're capturing that awesome career story of yours. And then obviously practice. There's tons of coaches like me that will do mock interviews with you that have experience from doing entry-level screens up to more complex, STAR and PAR and situational interview questions. But if that is not, in your scope, definitely reach out to a friend and ask for support so you can practice. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. I don't want to overwhelm, and I certainly don't want this to go on too long because it just doesn't make sense. Can't figure out how to stop sharing. What questions do folks have? Again, I feel like part of this challenge has been with people struggling with financial insecurity, with depression and or addiction, mental illness, where they're likely not being able to get some of the resources that they need, and then frantically applying and trying to take every interview. And it's just a reminder to take a moment when you get a message from a recruiter or you get a response. Like, we want to be radically honest with ourselves, right? Yes, we want a position. We want money in our bank account. We have that sense of urgency. I've been there before. I mean, you're talking to someone that has had multiple jobs throughout her career, early career when I was, making peanuts early in staffing. I worked weekends at a J. Christopher's breakfast place. And, I was always walking dogs. Dog sitting was definitely a part of my side hustle. But it's also just getting into that clarity of, what do we really want, and making sure that we're not compromising that. And yes, sometimes we have to just get a job to, meet our basic needs, right? And that is 100% highest probability to keep your house, to keep your car, to maintain the lifestyle that you need to, be the best version of you. But as you're evaluating these opportunities and working with recruiters, I invite you again to kind of look at, what do you really want? And where are the areas of your skills and the work that you've done that has lit you up, that you have that unshakable confidence around, that if given an opportunity, you can come in and create immediate impact. And those are the stories that we want to tell. Those are, what decision makers are going to gravitate towards. And in this market, when we're looking at the talent that's available, to the number of positions that are open, I'm seeing more on job descriptions, the words that say, like, don't worry if you don't totally fit all the boxes, go ahead and apply anyway. I'm certainly seeing more of that trend. And that is an indication that organizations are waking up a little bit more in the fact that they are going to have to, flex a little bit to get the right people in the door. And I anticipate, this is the optimist in me, that we are also going to see more, more professional development and succession planning and talent management containers, that if you start as a coordinator, here's the timeline that would get you into a specialist role. And from a specialist role, then you would go into an associate blank role, that we're going to, have more opportunities to tell the story with candidates about, what is truly the career track that this company offers. And, we have seen with the Great Resignation and the reshuffle, and now, they've said hiring should get easier. I, have different opinions on that. I'm not sure if it's truly easier. I think what I'm excited about is talent professionals like myself and other leaders are really having great, difficult conversations with leaders of organizations on how they can do this differently. And with that, we'll hopefully solve some of the dear recruiter frustrations, and eventually minimize some of the ghosting, give job seekers an opportunity to find, equanimity in these opportunities, and create win-wins for people as they go through this job search journey. So I have no idea really who has been here other than Jason, Maria, Dan, Ronette, David for a little bit, Julie, because I can't tell on LinkedIn. So next week, we will be back with Focused and Fulfilling Strategy. So this is the umbrella under the BFF method that talks about our basic core job search strategies. And these are usually topics. My goal is to come in and try to solve one challenge that you're dealing with. So if there's an area in your strategy that you feel like you're hitting up against a brick wall and would like me to try to unravel that, you're welcome to send me a direct message. I tend to pick up my ideas from content that I see out on LinkedIn or through conversations I have with folks that come through with different strategy sessions. So, I have been completely, let me, 3 recruiters in the past week providing job description and requesting an updated resume. I respond quickly and enthusiastically. Awesome. I have not heard back from any of them. Should I keep responding to these emails? How should I proceed? Great question, Pamela. Okay, so I'm not, okay, so a couple things I'm curious about is like, what types of recruiters are they? Are they agency or are they corporate? Thanks, Yvonne. Thanks for coming. David's still here. Thank you. So it depends on what type of recruiter they are and how much data we have on, the firm opening. So I believe if recruiters are asking you to hustle to update a resume, I want you to make sure that you have a firm understanding of the opportunity. So you got the job description. So it sounds like you know the company, the main details with the job description, potentially pay range. So I'm going to assume that. So these are all legit opportunities. Now, the question for my recruiter brain is, you sent the resume, maybe the recruiters shared it with the hiring manager, decision maker, client, and the client said, thanks, but no thanks. And the recruiter is either stalling because they're not sure what's going to happen in the process, or they just haven't had the bandwidth to get back to you. But I would do what I recommended earlier is, follow up, say, we talked about this position. You sent me the job description. I updated my resume. I'm looking to understand this process. Can you please let me know what I can expect next? In the meantime, here is my availability for the next couple of days. I would, as I understand it, the next step is to talk with ABC. So when you kind of reframe the language and kind of demonstrating the work that you've done in service of the ask, I feel like that lands and has some weight to the follow-up email that would make the recruiter be like, oh, you're right. I'm talking about myself. If someone sent me that kind of message, I'd be like, Pamela is 100% spot on. I asked her to hustle to get me that resume. You've earned the right to ask for that feedback. And you can also present it in kind of a fear of loss standpoint. We spoke on this day about this position. I updated my resume. I'm actively interviewing. I want to make sure my opportunities have balance between the timelines. Please let me know what the process is, if I'm still in consideration. And if yes, here is my availability. If no, I'm always open to feedback. Thank you for the opportunity. Okay. Interesting. Pamela, let's, I can hop on a call with you and we can talk a little bit more if you want, kind of get into the weeds of this opportunity. Sometimes you're going to have recruiters that first start off with tons of gusto and energy and then fall flat, right? But all 3 seems suspicious. So, let's connect offline and I'll see, if I can potentially offer any other insights. So we're going to wrap up. It is 12:33. I'm Anna Morgan, your career BFF. I'm so grateful for this community. I am, still in awe that this is week 13. We're going to keep trucking along. I've got some new super cool things in the works that I can't wait to share, and what's coming the rest of this year, because we are rounding the corner to fourth quarter and finishing off 2022, which seems crazy. Take care of yourself. Reach out to your network. Ask the questions that matter. If you get hung up in a recruiter scenario, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm your career BFF, and I'm happy to be of service. Have a wonderful day.